Okay, well, we'll get started. I think a few more people might be joining us a minute or two late, but we'll just we'll get started for our last session, which is on decluttering, both literally and figuratively. So Jackie and I really enjoyed doing our program, this 4-week program. So we're gonna finish it up today, and then we'll also announce something that we're going to do for a little bit of an interim period before we start our next full session. So today, as I said, it's on decluttering. So let's begin with what is clutter. Let's begin with the definition. And according to dictionary.com, clutter is defined as something untidy or overfilled with objects, literally. It also refers to a state of condition or condition of confusion, which is our figuratively. And it could be old ideas, toxic or unfulfilling relationships, or just simply bad habits. So in essence, and I like this definition, clutter is anything that does not support your better self. So let's identify some clutter. It doesn't have a place to land or live and no longer serves a purpose to you. So that again can be literally, you don't need that jacket anymore, or figuratively, you have a friendship with someone that you've been friends with for a long time, but you're not really feeling any, you may feel like that's not really a toxic relationship, but you don't really feel as good about the relationship as you might used to. So it's not really serving, you might have outgrown each other. It's broken or in need of repair. Clutter can be messy, chaotic, or disorganized. Or clutter has become too challenging to manage. So that could be something in your life, figuratively, or just something it's just too hard to manage. There's 600 pairs of shoes that you only wear 4 of. So think about in terms of, figuratively or literally. If you're having trouble throwing something away, or you're feeling too overwhelmed with the amount of stuff you have in your home, you most likely have too much physical clutter, and the same can go for mental. So let's take a moment and kind of segue into what the impact of clutter is on your mental health. And this is really what I want to focus today on. And mental, physical, or emotional clutter can contribute to the inability for us to think clearly. And as a result, it can increase our stress levels and decrease our energy levels, making it less likely that we're going to get the things that we want to get done. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to admit one more person. And the things that are going to help us create that, supporting our better selves, we're going to have less energy to do so if we're too busy trying to find things, or just kind of bogged down with relationships that aren't really working for us. And it basically just takes time away for our self-care routines. When physical clutter becomes excessive, it also makes us just in a physical stance. Like if you're trying to do yoga or do a workout in your home, but you've got too much stuff around, just literally, you're not going to have the space or the mental clarity to be able to do that yoga routine or to do your strength or stretching routines. So you're certainly not going to want to feel like practicing yoga and meditation when you're looking around and you've got, piles of newspapers or books or whatever, so be it. The thing that I also wanted to focus on as well is clutter and self-esteem. And a lot of times when you have trouble staying organized, you may feel kind of out of control. And when you feel out of control, most likely that's going to impact your self-esteem. You're going to be like, well, why can't I control my physical surroundings? Or why am I constantly having these, reaching out to friends that I'm really not getting fulfillment from? So it can kind of circle back and create that vicious circle of just kind of decreasing your self-esteem. Jackie, did you have anything you wanted to kind of jump in with here?
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking, so we started with the physical, and I mean, raise of hands, right? If I don't know about you, but I know there's certain things in my life, physical, not even mental, that you want to hold on to. So if you have any of those, like you just mentioned, the shoes or something, and then what it does, yeah, right? Donna's like, yes, whatever that is, it's different for all of us. But as Andrea just mentioned, when we tie down, even if it's physical, the mind is affected by that instantly, right? It's kind of almost like we talked about motivation, or not motivation, but organization last week and, getting your routine and your lists. So think about that with the physical things of on our list. Sometimes we like to clean our space first before we do our work. Put that in exactly what we're talking about. Put that together, right? Sometimes we're like, I can't do my work until I clean my space. But it's because sometimes the physical makes us feel jumbled. So if something is weighing on you like that, you might not realize how much it's actually really weighing on you. Like if you feel there's a mess in your life, in your closet or in your social life, in your personal life, I mean, that puts a lot of weight on us. So don't underestimate if it's physical, mental, because they play off of each other, right? So just think about that as you are today. We'll have you do a couple of activities to think about what might be weighing on you in clutter and how it's affecting you in different parts of your life.
That's great. Anything else? Did you want to, before I cut you off?
You can go move forward and we can keep, I'll chat on that. You can keep on.
Okay. So there's a few characteristics that are general themes of clutterers, and there's often individuals who, I think most of us struggle with time management sometimes, and we stop tasks, but basically procrastinators. That can often be a sign of someone who's a clutterer. Easily sidetracked or have perfectionist tendencies. You might want to start, sometimes you might find yourself starting a project and then say, you know what, this is taking more time than like, for instance, I bought something at a thrift store and I wanted to repaint it, kind of stain it, repaint it, and do things like that. And about halfway through, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go do something else. This is taking a little longer. So I kind of felt myself getting sidetracked. So that's just something that's a little bit characteristic of clutters. I'm going to focus just for a few minutes on just some tips for managing literal clutter. And then I'm going to segue over to more of our figurative clutter. And then I will get onto another worksheet. So tips for managing literal clutter. Walk room to room, possibly with like a small notebook. I've done this before and I found that this works pretty well. And just kind of observe your surroundings in each room. And write down maybe just a couple bullet points of what you would need to kind of declutter that room. Like, for instance, if it's a living room and you have 6 blankets in there, to say, blankets. Let's put those, decide to get rid of them, donate them. Obviously, this is a great time of year to donate things. And just do that room from room. Another thing is start small. Pick one drawer or cabinet, something that's in about 15 minutes. You don't need studies show that if you think you're going to spend all weekend kind of tidying up or organizing your whole home, you're not going to get it done. But if you say, okay, I've got 15 minutes before I'm supposed to go meet my friend to walk, I'm going to dig out one drawer. You're going to find yourself excited probably to start another drawer. So that's something that I'll encourage you to do more. So start small. Build in structure. So for instance, if you're going to invite some friends over for dinner, that's going to kind of force you to clean your kitchen.
Yes, there is.
Build in extra time. So most likely things to declutter are going to take longer than you anticipate. So don't, overestimate how much you're going to get done. Like I said in the second bullet point is just start small. You can always do more. Don't strive for perfection. And declutter before you organize. So if you're going to tackle that closet,
of course we
get what you think you're not going to need.
Of course.
And let me hold on a second. I'm going to mute her real quickly.
And if you want to.
Sorry about that. Declutter before you organize. So take out those extra shirts, things that you haven't worn in a year, jackets, socks, anything that you haven't worn in a while or that have holes or something. Get rid of before you start organizing. People will buy bins and try to organize things that they ended up organizing their clutter that they don't really need anyway. So those are tips for literal clutter.
Can I add to those too, Andrea?
Absolutely.
Another important one when you do this too, guys, don't be afraid to ask for help. That's why we're here anyways, right? And I think especially when it comes to things like this, decluttering with physical things, which we usually have an emotional tie to, don't be afraid to ask someone else for help, because usually what happens is that your system of organization, the reason why maybe it hasn't worked for so long is because maybe it's not the right one. Maybe you need to find a new one. And the only way to do that is maybe to ask for some help. Maybe someone has a better pointer to say, you know what, maybe this will work better for you. So never kind of feel like, ooh, I'm the only one with this problem, I'm embarrassed about it or such. Like, you have friends, you have us in general, but you have friends and family, people who are wanting to help or might just have a bright idea that you didn't think about. And it could be as easy as that. So sometimes I think we overwhelm ourselves more than we need to. And it's kind of funny, right? Because then you ask that one thing and you're like, oh, I've been sitting here for days trying to figure that out, and someone just clicked. So think about that. Don't be afraid to do that. And, you know, remembering, like Andrea said, when you get in these situations where you have a lot of clutter in your life, like, remember why are you doing this in the first place? And what's your bigger goal to clean out that space? You're cleaning out that space maybe, or I'm giving you an example for space, but you're cleaning out a space maybe to put a new piece of workout equipment or a gym space so that you can get healthy. And then if it's filled with things that you don't need, and you're reminded or reminding yourself, but this space is for me to get healthy, it's kind of a no-brainer. All of a sudden you're like, oh, chuck this stuff because I want to feel good. So think about your end goals when you're there with those physical things you're removing.
May also add, that's a great point. Also, be in the proper mindset for what you're trying to tackle. So for instance, I'm usually a pretty good like physical organizer. I love to organize, but I know emotionally, like right now I've got to move some of my mom's stuff since she passed away. I have to be in the right mindset to do that. That's a whole other mindset that I know. So if you're kind of already tired or not in the best mindset, that's probably not the time to tackle on something that's emotionally charged as far as decluttering. So that's just something to be aware of. Just kind of ask your question, say, hey, am I really up for this today? And if not, don't let yourself off the hook completely. Go do something that's going to bring you some joy to organize. So just something to kind of think about. Jackie, are you done before I move on to the
Yeah, keep on going. I'll just add in a few as we go. That was great. I love that.
Okay. So tip for managing figurative clutter: friendships. Create a life in which your friendships add to your life, not make you feel bad. So sometimes less friendships can sometimes be more. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's hard to let go of, to kind of identify and to realize, well, some friendships maybe have run their course, or they might have been great for one chapter in your life, but maybe not. And it's hard to say, to kind of be honest with yourself to know that. And sometimes you're like, I know sometimes it's hard to say, you know what, I don't really, I don't have a ton of friends, so I want to hold on to the ones I have. But if they're not bringing you joy, then maybe that's just not the right fit. So it's just something to kind of think about. Make a list of all the things taking up space in your life, and that can be physical, but mostly mental and emotionally, to address in the next month. So prioritize the items you want to address. So if you're volunteering with 4 different entities and you're kind of running ragged and you're not really engaging in optimal self-care, it may be time to pick the 2 charity work the volunteer opportunities that you do each week that do really bring you the most joy and fulfillment, and maybe focus just on those and say, you know what, I can't do everything. I'm going to prioritize what I can do. Observe if you think, this is kind of piggybacking on that. Observe if you think you have too many time commitments in your life. Can you reduce them? If you can't, okay, but it might just be, you may not be aware of how much you're really doing. I think we're probably all guilty of this next one. Declutter your screen time. Are you on social media too much? If you're finding yourself that you're on Facebook and you think you're going to get on for 10 minutes and you end up 45 minutes later, you're still on there. Maybe time to maybe set a timer and say, I'm going to get on, but when that timer goes off after 20 minutes, I'm done. Or are you always on your phone? Just some, things to think about. And then obviously learn to say no. Identify on the unnecessary time eaters in your life. If you aren't kind of piggybacking on that, if you aren't contributing to your priorities or making a positive impact on your day, consider making some adjustments. Kind of back to that Facebook example. If you're on for 45 minutes and you kind of feel like, well, where did all my time go today? That might be something that is impacting that. And this works for me. This is take a look at your week and pencil in time for certain activities. So I always do that with my workouts. I do that with, kind of my meal prep. I do that with when am I going to, see my friends or whatever it is. I find that works if I take, and I always suggest that to the people that I train so that they can kind of plan out their week and say, okay, this is where I'm going to plug in my workout. Do the same with decluttering. Say I'm going to plug in 30 minutes here. I don't exactly know when that's going to be, but on that day, but I'm going to get that done on Wednesday. And if you have to change it, you don't have to be completely set in stone, but at least you have something on the calendar rather than not getting it done at all. And then write your priorities for the week and have them in view so that maybe like on the fridge, so that when you're just kind of, at least it's subconsciously they're there. And that's all I've got.
Yeah, I'd love to add to those and kind of put it in personal aspect for you guys a little bit. So Andrew just kicked us off talking about, the decluttering of your life with relationships and friends, again, hand in hand with your physical and your emotional. So a lot of times, I say quality versus quantity, right? When you get a little older about everything and you start to learn more, quality versus quantity. I think our relationships are hardest because I don't know about you guys, but we can probably agree that everybody's had these circumstances in your life where you just feel obligated to do a lot, whether it's for family or friends. And sometimes saying no to doing things, or even saying no to that relationship at all and walking away, is probably the wisest choice you can do for your own health. For example, I'll give you a perfect example of having this year a good friend getting married, and there were certain things, and I was the maid of honor for her, and I knew there were certain things I could commit to in that, but as it broke my heart for some things, I knew I just had to say no for other things and say, I can't fit this in my schedule. I'm going to do the best I can, but I can't. So I think there's a guilt that comes along with sometimes trying to do too much. And that's going to make you crazy at the end of the day. If you get too many responsibilities and then you look and you're like, I'm way over my head. So that's why we've been talking about, one thing at a time, trying to just do step by step and not overcommitting to either those, what you feel is obligations or commitments. You don't have to save the world. You can do the best that you can do, but you don't have to do it all. You can just prioritize, like Andrea just said, figure out and write down the things that are most important to you and being able to accomplish versus everything. And then if you get to the other things, that's awesome. But the first things come first. And again, with those relationships, I feel like a lot, we always see like the misery loves company when you have old friends that are like, let's go do this, but your goals are in a different direction. You gotta get used to saying no if you want to grow. We always have that little line, we joke about it. And, our coaching groups is like, you got to say no to grow sometimes, because your goals at this time aren't going to be everyone's around you. And that's why you end up falling into groups of people, and as you get older or you're trying to learn more about yourself, you fall into the groups of people that have similar goals, because that way you guys are on the same wavelengths. You're thinking about the same things. You're at a speed that is working at the same pace to get to bigger, greater things. So I always remind people of that. Just because you've known someone since you're like this young, it doesn't mean that those people serve you in your life the same way the things we had. But I had this blanket since I was so-and-so, or whatever it is. Sometimes it doesn't serve you in the same way, and you just got to get used to letting go. And it's okay to let go. And I think that we give ourselves this guilt that it's not okay to let go. Even I know during grief, a lot of people, when grief happens, which the same, if you guys know, because I wanted to chat about the brain real quick. So this might help you some with your habits as well. So the brain, the way it processes a drug, a breakup, grieving, all of that's processed in the same area. So it actually is triggering the same kind of emotions, because whether it's coming off of some kind of addiction, that can be the same as a relationship in love and grief, because you have those feelings. So it has to let go of them. So it can be really, really challenging in all of those aspects to actually let go. So that brings me to habits, right? So if you've heard of 21-day habit changing, the reason why they do 21 habit changing, we were just talking about this the other day in another call, is because it takes the brain about 3 weeks, about around the 21 days, it takes the brain that long to disrupt the patterns, right? So our brains are just, this is human nature. This is how we are built as humans, is that our brains are in autopilot mode, or they go back to what we know best. So if your patterns have been the same all the time, it's just auto, it's going to resort until you disrupt it. But unfortunately, it has to be disrupted long enough for us to create the new pattern, right? So if we've been holding on to certain things our whole life, how do you expect that all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I'm over it, right? It's going to take a while of repetition. That's why we talk about making these routines, changing things, giving it long enough to trust the process to be able to create the change. Because it's not you and being like, I can't do it. It's your brain function. We're just programmed to want to go back. It's the same with an injury, right? Or something that you want to get stronger, but you've never gotten to that place before, because your resort is back to wherever it's been comfortable. So that's why, you'll hear us say, get a little uncomfortable, do hard things, because you have to disrupt the pattern. And that also brings me to some of the tips I had saying no on that list that Andrea, I'm just going to extend Andrea's list with that stuff. But guys, nutrition is hugely beneficial to that brain function, to decluttering, because I know when I eat healthy, or I eat good and for my body for the things it needs, I can think more clearly. Food can actually be healing in that way. So, and that's a whole nother topic to, find out the foods that are helpful. And I know Andrea is like such a whiz at this stuff with great nutrition, but think about it. I mean, raise of hands of if you feel like when you're eating good, you feel good and your brain's like, you feel more awake, alert, not tired, energized, and finding that diet that works for you to stay energized through the days. Same goes with exercise. That's why, another perfect example was yesterday when where you guys are, I know it's getting a little colder, right? It's getting colder out. I know when it's colder, I am less motivated. I'm cold. I want to take a shower. I don't want to go work out. I knew I needed to move though. And I was kind of mentally ending my day. And it was like late afternoon. I was like, I'm calling it today. And I was like, you know what? But like, there's something inside of you that's like, I still need to move. I feel like I didn't move enough. I did a workout. I went for it. I got so much done after that, and I was going to call it a day, and it wasn't painful. It was joyful because I switched that mindset, and it just made me feel good because I moved my body. I did something that I thought I wasn't going to do. And then it was a trigger to do the other things without feeling like, oh, it made me energized again. So I laugh at that because you're like, oh, game changer. What if I didn't do that? So think about that, incorporating nutrition, exercise, starting to feel better. And then another one on my list was meditation. And I know not everybody practices this. I don't even practice it every day, but even just slowing down your mind, I think that's really, really underrated for a lot of people, especially if you're a goer, to just take a little bit of time, even if it's before you tackle your to-do list, which is actually when I like to do it, because putting yourself in a good headspace, and whether it's just taking and reading a book, or if it's just going into that meditation zone. I know there's actually a lot of apps now on your phone. There's meditation apps that will walk you through like a 10-minute meditation or a 3-minute meditation if you only have 3 minutes, but it's something to calm your mind, to just declutter it basically for those minutes, and then go into your day feeling like maybe you can tackle things a little better or easier. I think, trying these things aren't going to hurt you. So if you're not doing it now and you need a new way, because if you go back to your old way and it hasn't been working, I think it's time to try something different. So that's why we want to be able to offer you some of these things, because why not try it if you're struggling? And then if that doesn't work and you've given it a solid chance, then you try something else. But no harm in trying something new, always. Yeah, I think that's all I had for a little bit on that.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I'm going to, when I send you the recorded version of this class today, I'm going to actually attach a worksheet that just basically some things to think about as far as decluttering, just some questions to ask yourself. And it'd be interesting for you. There are about 11 questions, and you can write those down and then kind of pull out your list about a month from now and kind of maybe keep a journal, for instance, and just see, just ask yourself, 2 questions. What are you most surprised about while you decluttered, and has it changed you? So I'm going to send this out to you as well. And then Jackie, did you want to talk about the book? I don't know if you guys have, well, first of all, before we do that, does anybody have any questions or anything that you would like to contribute or talk about today?
I was laughing when she asked about shoes, because if I just emptied every pair of shoes out of my closet and they were just in a big pile, and I'm going to go through and there's a big bag for charity.
Wonderful.
There's going to be
I'm
a
like, I
pile
have
of
so many
cake.
shoes. I don't know
There's
why.
sports, there's golf. Well, I have riding boots and paddock boots. I have golf shoes. I have, just shoes for casual wear and booties. And I have this pile that I've made. And now that's decluttering. And I was laughing because Jackie had mentioned shoes, because that's what I was doing this morning.
Oh, good for you. Yeah,
And
I have so many jackets.
Shoes, but I was just thinking, like someone said to me, well, you should only have 4. And I said, I can't, because I have golf and I have riding and muck boots for working out in the yard. And if I had 4, that would leave me with 1 for, everything else. But I am trying to have less.
Good. And I think, again, it really does go back to, your goals. And, we made goals at the beginning of what we wanted to, your why behind your goals and what you wanted to do. So sometimes we have to think about it the opposite way of like, okay, so why am I holding on to these right now? And why is that so important? Versus your why of like, why do I want to get rid of them? Like, what is my bigger goal up there? So it really is. It's the balance of when you're getting rid. That's a good exercise to do. Say, what is your bigger why? If why you're keeping them is a bigger reason, then you keep them. But if your why is bigger and you know it, and you just know it, don't make excuses for yourself. If your why is bigger for getting rid of them, it's kind of that moment to just do your best to rid it. And when you do, you feel so great. You might have one time where you're like, darn, I wish I had those shoes. But then you'll probably get over it. You'll probably get over it about 5 minutes later and be fine. But I think that does happen. And Andrew, you mentioned about talking about the book. So the compound effect, which is the idea of, it's really a lot about routine, to be honest, routine and consistency that really puts all of this stuff together. But it's really making your routine happen. And I think that is part of this. So Andrew just said about logging stuff and giving you that worksheet to log how the progress is going. So if you really want to do some wellness work and see your progress, I would use that as an exercise for yourself to start logging things daily, whatever you're trying to work on the most. So say, Leslie, maybe it's like drinking more water and such, right? If you're logging daily, yeah, she's like, I got my water. Or if you're trying to create new habits, I do this with the nutrition, and with a lot of people, we do food logging because it's the number one thing, not to be like, ooh, what did I eat? It's more just to see your habits during the day and then what's fueling your body. But if you really want to create change, log, because guess what logging is as well? It's an actual thing that you have to show up to do every day. So that's actually a new routine. So if you can start logging for like 3 weeks, that alone in itself, jotting something down is a thing. And I know in our logs, so I'll give you this as an example, and you can even write this down for an exercise. Think of your one thing that you're actually trying to work on. We've talked about this in our goals, but then write that down and then start logging each day. And the things you can log is what it is, if you did or didn't do it, or what piece of it you did or did not do. And then write down your feelings about it. Like, how am I feeling today? What was it successful? Was it like, ooh, didn't feel so great? Write that as you go, because then you're almost actually journaling at that point. What was great today? What was something I'm grateful for? And keep that as your small list of 4 or 5 things that you jot down every day. And it becomes a routine to start journaling. And I got to tell you, every time I do it, because I start to slack on that sometimes when I lose sight of specific goals, but every time I'm journaling like that regularly, I feel so much better. And I can't tell you how that feels. You just have to do it and see what comes from that. But it's really like this grateful feeling of like, wow, I did this for myself. I tracked some things. I now know a little bit of my progress, because it's like a progress report, right? And you created it for yourself. I mean, that's awesome. And you showed up to do it every day. So someone didn't have to go tisk tisk. You actually have the records of how you just went through these 3 weeks. So that's an exercise that might really help you if you're trying to create new routine. And the whole point of, like, we're talking about the compound effect. Like I said, if you don't have that book where you're trying to create some new high performing habits, it's a great book to have. But something he says as well is Darren Hardy, who's the author. He talks about planning ahead. So it doesn't mean you have this crazy set plan, and if it doesn't go perfect, you're all out of whack. But the point of planning ahead is really to think about like your week goal, your month goal, your year goal, because it's a little bit of reverse engineering. I know we've talked about this before, but thinking about the big goal at the end, and then you see where you are today. Sometimes this puts a little speed on us, because we're like, whoa, if I wanted this goal by the end of December and I'm not doing the baby steps right now, I'm not going to get there. And if it's meaningful enough for you, you'll start to, take your foot off the brakes and start going a little harder. But break it down, because then you can actually manage it. Again, decluttering in your head, you can start to manage it a little better in your head, knowing that, like, all right, I see myself with this. I'm trying to get here. I'm trying to buy a new car or a house, or I want this new space, or I want to create a garden. I don't know. I want to lose weight. I want to eat and lose this much, or create a new lifestyle for something, whatever it is. Scale back. What's your long-term goal? Where do you see yourself maybe in like a month from now? And where do you see yourself from the end of the week? So manageable things, right? And they'll start to progress. So if you kind of break it down a little bit, that can really be helpful, and you're planning ahead. A lot of business people will do this quarterly, right? You have quarterly goals. If you've ever been in a company and they're like quarterly quotas or quarterly, goals for yourself or your business. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's personal. Think about that we can apply the same to our health and wellness all the time, and just making it for you, because I don't know, we seem to make these big goals for other people really easily. And then we forget that we have personal goals. And if you're looking to, like I'll say it all the time, if you want to perform better in life, your wellness is where it starts. You have to be okay with you. You have to be showing up for you every day to be able to show up for other people. And there's just no way around that. So anything that you need work on, you need to take a little bit of time out of your day to really start working on that. And it will get better. It always does.
Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add about the book? Did anybody find anything that kind of resonated with them from the book that they'd want to add?
Did anybody pick up the book at all? You didn't have to, but there's audio. You can listen to audio too, but if anybody didn't.
Leslie read it. think she's raising her hand.
Oh, you're muted.
I think she's muted. Hold on one second.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, yes, I did read the book. And as I told you last week, I thought the book was thought-provoking.
Totally.
I think some of it, and I haven't done the activities, I mean, the worksheets.
That's okay.
But, and I thought it might be a little over the top for my point in life, but I got the theory.
Yes, it's more the theory of it, right? So anything that's fully applied there for, I mean, this is for full life living. So you're not going to resonate with every single specific thing, but it's the concept of what you're trying to do to just create. And it doesn't have to be like he's a success person. So he'll talk about some financial stuff too, if you're growing in that sense, but it doesn't matter. It's any little thing in your life that you're trying to grow and get better with, and how those habits and patterns can repeat and help you get to a better place, no matter what it is. So good.
Yeah, no, and the food part was interesting because a lot of the things that he talked about, I've been doing for years. So that was a little disappointing. I was looking for a trick. Didn't happen.
That's okay. That's okay. That means you're doing good things though. So, all right. Anybody else for comments or anything?
Yeah, Debbie.
Hi. So first of all, I just want to thank you guys. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead because I don't know if you're going to go around for when you said this was part of a wrap up, but I just want to thank you all. I was sorry I had to miss last week, but this is like the 3rd out of 4 that I've been to. And honestly, every time I come on, something that you say really resonates with me. So I just want to thank you because for today's topic, I'm really good with like the physical decluttering. Like you, Andrew, I love to like organize things in my house. And I've done a lot of that the last year or two, but it's the other kinds of decluttering with like relationships and things in your life and just like your daily, like I am one of those go-getter persons. And so I wasn't really thinking in those terms at all when I read about the topic. So you're really making me think about things. And in terms of like some of the goals I had set for myself at the beginning, the one that I'm now having the most trouble with is my sleep issues, et cetera. And so that whole concept of decluttering the mind now is going back to session 1 or 2, motivating me to try and like figure that out with this like decluttering perspective. So very helpful. I'm excited about, trying to figure that out. I was thinking about some meditation and things like that already before we talked today. So it's really good. Again, you've gotten me to really think about a lot of things, and I've definitely moved along with some of my other goals. So this has been wonderful. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think there's probably, more to be done, and I'm looking forward to hearing what else you're going to come up with. But it's great. You can always, even if you're doing something right, you can always learn something more. So it's good. Thank you. And
Thank
Andrea,
you so much.
Andrew, you're very professional and you seem much more comfortable with your public speaking than you did at the beginning. So you're doing a great job too. And Jackie, you were always there. So you're good. I don't think that was.
I'm working toward her. Actually,
I
Jackie,
agree. I agree that Andrea is doing very well on the public speaking and seems more relaxed and has it in a practiced and organized fashion. So that's terrific. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's good
A
information.
long way to go on that one. But
Very helpful.
thank you.
So great.
Did you actually, go ahead. Sometimes it's hard on Zoom. Did you want to bring up kind of our next kind of unofficial 3-week thing? That'll be kind of a good segue based on what Debbie just said.
Yes.
That might be a good segue into that.
Yes, I'm really excited. Actually, Debbie, that's so awesome. And I think a couple of you said the same things, right? Of it, thought-provoking was a good term to say about making you think about things. That's kind of what we wanted to do. So listen, we only took 4 weeks to do this, to really learn the behaviors or learn something new to apply into your lifestyle, to grow and get better, healthier mentally, physically. So now it's your job, as hopefully you've been starting it, but now it's your job to really apply it. Take those action steps, we can learn anything, but excuse me, if we don't apply it, we don't do anything about it, and we take what we learn and we throw it in the trash, it doesn't mean anything. So take these next, I don't know, until the end of the year, take the next month or so and start applying and see how you feel, see if there's changes. Excuse me, guys, I got like a little tickle in my throat. Excuse me. Okay, which brings me to, so we didn't want to leave you until we start the next Jumpstart, which will be December 1st, or is it 1st or 2nd? It's like right at the beginning of December.
Yeah,
You know?
right after
Okay, whatever the
Thanksgiving.
Monday is for December. But we were thinking, because I love the holidays, and if you guys don't know, some of you don't know me, but I'm a super foodie. I love food and holiday tradition stuff, but I also like to create balance, eat healthy, know what foods work for me, and try to maintain during the holidays, not look at the holidays like free for all, here we go. Because I don't want to lose everything I've gained during the holidays, in a sense of like growth in good ways. So I think that, again, that's habits, right? We're talking about changing habits. Wellness is a lifestyle, not just a trend that comes in and out. So we were thinking the next 3 weeks, we'd love to continue these Zooms at noon, but we want to focus a little more on nutrition. So if anybody's thinking about nutrition and eating eating your way through the holidays in good ways and feeling happy and balanced, we were going to talk a little bit about our habits and eating habits, and especially when it gets a little harder during times where food is kind of the surrounding of gatherings. And then we wanted to talk a little more in depth about like food as fuel, like how are you fueling your body? Maybe you guys have some things you want to ask us. I know Andrea is so good with nutrition stuff too. So if you have questions about, hey, I really want to see like these, I thought I could eat these vegetables, but like vegetables just don't seem to be going along well with my body, or I'm not feeling fueled, I'm feeling tired, I'm not sleeping well, like things like that. We want to touch a little bit upon, we can't go into everything, but we'll go there. And then we want to wrap it up with some fun Thanksgiving stuff. So we wanted to give some recipe shares. We wanted to hear about your recipes, and then we'll give you guys some of our favorites. Like I know I have a list of things, or some options, some healthy swaps, and some tips and tricks to help your way through the holidays without losing it all.
And it's also going to be much more of an informal kind of just
it'll be a little relaxed,
kind of contribute and ask questions, kind of a much more informal and just a kind of place to kind of build community and be able to speak and just ask questions, whatever, kind of ask the trainers or ask us questions as well. So much more informal.
Yeah, so you guys have the reins to just, like I said, ask those little questions that you might be struggling with nutrition. I think it's the number one thing. Guess what? It ends up being like 90% of where your results come from if you're trying to make those gains. And like I said, they might be affecting you differently. Food might be affecting you mentally more than you may think with your everyday life. And I say that personally from experience with anxiety. Anxiety was one that was for me, that was high anxiety a lot. And food actually was a huge game changer. So things like that, you can kind of start to think about and think how you're feeling. But we do want to, keep with the gratitude as well, coming into Thanksgiving and knowing that, this is a time where we get to have these fun gatherings and food and family and whatever, however you celebrate, but let's look at it positive and be together and have some fun with it. So it would be the November 1st, November, I think it's like 9th, 8th or 9th, and then November 15th. So these next 3 weeks, and then that will lead you right into Thanksgiving. And then the following week after, you can pick back up into our holiday Jumpstart program if you want to. So basically you'll have accountability always through the holidays if you need it. And yeah, we'd love to see you in here. So we're here if you want to join us. And if you have any other questions.
No sessions won't be recorded.
Will it be the same Zoom link, or will you set out a new one?
I'm going to send a new Zoom link, but it'll be a recurring one. It'll be the same one for 3 weeks. And those sessions won't be recorded. So it's just going to be very informal.
Yeah, this will just be kind of chat.
Yeah. Okay. And then we'll have a formal program unveiling in December. if anyone wants to do it.
Thank you.
Um,
Sounds
Thank
good.
you. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Going
No,
once?
it's been, no, wait. Am I live?
Yeah, you're live.
No. Yeah, it's been great. And it was at a time that I just left the Cape, came to Florida. So it kind of got me started in the right direction.
Awesome. That's great to
But
hear,
I'm
Leslie.
real happy to do 3 weeks of nutrition. That will be great.
Okay, awesome. Great.
Thank you. Thank you again.
You're
Thank you.
I
welcome.
want to repeat what Debbie said. This has really been great. I mean, just every week, every session, the ones I didn't attend, I did watch the recordings. And it's very helpful, more than you probably even realize.
Oh,
Aw.
thank you.
Yeah, we're so glad to hear.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this, guys. It's just sometimes just showing up and being like, oh, this is that meditation that I was talking about, that time when you're like, stop in the day. You probably have 100 things to do today, but you stop to show up here. Now, when you go do them, you might mindfully be like, I feel great. I'm ready to go, right?
Thank you.
It's headspace, good positive thoughts, and resetting it is everything.
Thank you. Great.
All right,
Thanks
guys.
again, and I'll get you that worksheet that I spoke about as far as the decluttering, and then the recording as soon as it's available. So thank you. Thank you to everyone.
Thanks again.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank
Have a
you.
great day.
See you next
Bye.
week.